Hey, Pastor Dan here from Dexter Gospel Church. Thanks for watching this Proverbs Practical. Today's verse is the first half of one of the most famous passages in Proverbs. We're in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding." A lot of the time we look at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 as if they were a single proverb, and they definitely fit together thematically. But they are two separate sentences, and I really think each of them stands just fine on their own. This first verse calls us to the faith, which is at the core of all of our best interactions with God. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, and strong faith pleases God greatly. So he tells us to trust Him. And not just to trust Him in a cold, calculating, intellectual sense, but to trust Him from the heart, with all of our heart, just as He wants us to love Him with all of our heart. So when what God says and what we feel come into conflict, which should we trust? We know intellectually, of course, that it's God, but we often act instinctively as though it's ourselves. In doing so, we make ourselves to be gods. We act as though we know more, know better, or are more wise, or more faithful, or have better goals than God Himself does. Objectively, if we know God, we know that's silly. But in the moment-to-moment decisions of life, we have such a hard time trusting God completely with all our heart. And when what God says comes into conflict with how we think things work or should be, we have such a hard time heaving ourselves up off of our own understanding. If we feel like we're falling, we want to lean on something that will hold us up, and we instinctively lean on how we think things work, our own understanding. And this says, no, don't lean on your own understanding. Instead, we should be trusting God. Often, too, we try to make what God says conform to our understanding, so we don't have to choose between the two. We want God to agree with us, so we don't have to change our minds and agree with God. And so we'll try to warp and twist, or leave out or neglect or add to the things that He says. But in reality, we should understand that by nature, God and ourselves are often in disagreement. He has an eternal perspective. We naturally have a temporal perspective. He knows everything. Our knowledge is limited. He is perfect. We have a sin nature, and so on. So it's necessary for us to seek out those places of disagreement, those places where what God says tend to be different than how we understand things. And to look even in the places we might think we're aligned, so that we can trust in Him with all of our hearts, instead of leaning on our own understanding. I hope this video is a help to you. If it is, hit that thumbs up button to give it a like. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more comments on the Scriptures. We'd love to see you in the comments here of these videos, and we'd love to see you in person at Dexter Gospel Church. Until next time, I hope you stay well and trust God completely.